The 2025 season opens in a couple of days, and I'll tell you why. It's all about new beginnings, not only for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but for Trevor Lawrence.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, watch out here on Locked On Jaguars, because it is your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast, where we give you all of the things that are going on with the team each and every day. We have our finger on the pulse of the team. We and I have been credentialed for 2 decades covering this team, so I think we have a pretty good idea of what is going on. And we're going to talk about that here today. First and foremost, thank you to the everydayers that spend 30 minutes with us each and every day. We appreciate you. We do not take your time for granted. And that's an invitation to first-timers who are listening to Locked On Jaguars to come back each and every time and be an everydayer yourself. Make sure you check out the Locked On Jaguars newsletter, or the Locked On Podcast newsletter at lockedonpodcast.com/newsletter. Lots of great information. We work really, really hard on that, and it'll keep you up to date on everything going on around the National Football League. All right, I'm going to give it to you, man. It's the opener. Here's what we're going to discuss today. We're going to end up talking about all gas for 904. What I mean by that is this city is absolutely on fire with enthusiasm for this team. And I'll tell you that regardless of what happens, either way, good or bad, there's no need to lose everything. But we know how fandom is. It always does happen. In the middle of the show, we'll talk about Trevor Lawrence, how he can push back on his doubters. But at the very top of the show, taking a macro approach, talking about the entire organization and it being a chance for a new beginning. And let's start right there. There's going to be a lot said about what happened Sunday, prior to the game and after the game. If the Jacksonville Jaguars are victorious, which is that's something that we all hope for, there are going to be some people saying, yeah, hold your horses, they should have beat them. I mean, it's not like FSU beating Alabama where it was a shock to everybody. I don't think very many people are going to be surprised that the Jaguars are going to be favored. You can check out over on FanDuel and check those odds out. But for me, it's almost like you're in a no-win situation if you beat the Carolina Panthers, right? If you lose to the Carolina Panthers, there's going to be a panic and cause for concern. That's where we're going in segment 3. By the way, when I get you there, I'm going to tell you why nothing you see is going to be cause for concern. But it is a game that is winnable. It should be winnable. The Jaguars, I believe, are a more talented team than the Carolina Panthers, who are in their second year of their rebuild, and the Jaguars are in the first year of I don't think it's necessarily a rebuild, but it's a retooling, right? It's I think in the super yacht industry, shout out to Shad Khan for Kismet, they called it a refit. That's what the Jaguars are getting. They're getting a refit of what they already had going on. Like, yeah, we like it, but we like some aspects of it. We don't need to break the whole thing down, but we need to put our stamp on it. And I think that's what James Gladstone, Tony Baselli, and Liam Cohen are setting out to do. You can look at the depth chart, man, and tell that there was a lot of parts here that they really, really like. We've spoken on that ad nauseum, whether it's Trevor Lawrence, the 2 starting running backs, the 2 co-starters at running back, tight end Britton Strange, 3 returning starters on the offensive line that we ridiculed so much. Brian Thomas Jr. Those are big things on offense. And then you look at defense. There's Joshua Hines Allen, and Trayvon Walker, along with Devon Hamilton and Eric Armstead, a ridiculed unit for certain aspects of the defense. They're all the same people that are going to start with a different scheme and maybe a different utilization. Linebackers. There's no new starters at linebacker. They're all people that were already here. Your cornerback 1 and your cornerback 2 were already here. You got a different slot and you got a different wild card when you start looking at Travis Hunter. But even the safeties, it's a starter who's new and an incumbent in Dewey Wingard. So the thing is that this is not a total rebuild, right? They aren't where the Carolina Panthers were last year. We knew that they weren't as bad as that 4 wins, because if personnel wise they were as bad as 4 wins, they would have just traded out the GM and kept the coach who had won 2 straight, who had 2 straight years of winning 9 games with Doug Peterson. This is more about an attitude shift, a culture shift, a shift of your why. This is not, let's try to fix Jacksonville, because that would be trying to solve problems. This is about solutions. We are looking for green pasture. We're looking for blue sky. We're looking for anything that's promised to us that we can get because of our hard work. We're looking for anything that is going to allow us to win because of our superior talent and our superior preparation and our game planning. This isn't about fixing anything in the past. And I think that's why it's important for us to not get too high and too low based on one result. The Jaguars could actually win the game and people could be disappointed. Like if they went on a walk-off field goal, I know the thing will be, well, this is how, you figure out how to win games, even though things aren't going right. I'm gonna tell you, I'm probably gonna be one that's saying that. I'm gonna be one saying it's 1-0. It's 1 win, 1 loss. It doesn't matter how you got there, because they sure have lost a lot of games in the past that it looks like they were supposed to win, right? And nobody cared how it happened. Nobody, get moral victories. And when you win, when you do get victories, ain't nothing immoral about winning. So we're going to make sure we keep the main thing here, and really understand that while it is a chance for a new beginning, it is all about winning the game. Okay? If they don't win, I don't care how they played. They lost. Although we'll be positive enough to try to cherry pick some things that they need to do better. But it's about their why. It is about their why. Liam Cohen, first-time head coach. You heard a lot of superlatives about him. I got a message that there was going to be an article coming out about how a former NFC defensive coordinator talked about how well Liam called games. All those things are true. But now we get to see it. We get to manifest it. Hopefully what you'll see is the beginning of a future for the Jaguars where they're going to be competent each and every week, and they won't beat themselves. Because I think in the past, the Jaguars were known to self-destruct, and they did it in so many ways, it's not even funny. It's like it looks different, but the same. Like it's a different way each and every week. You remember the analogy, if you've been listening to this podcast long enough or watching it, you'll hear me say they fixed the bathroom sink and then a pipe busts in the kitchen. And then they fixed the pipe in the sink and then the floor buckles in the living room. It's like it was always something wrong that was different, but it was the same. Hopefully that routine can flip, and now they'll win games maybe in different ways, but it'll be the same because it'll be the same effort. It'll be the same flow to the game. It'll be the same way that they find a way each and every week. So we're going to talk about Trevor Lawrence next. That's Liam Cohen, Tony Baselli, and James Gladstone. But what are they working with? They're working with a quarterback that, quite frankly, could use a little bit of pushback on his doubters and his haters, even if it's just for 1 week. We'll discuss that and more here on Locked On Jaguars. Oh, man. This episode is brought to you by Poised, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on Poised, being right means cashing in. With football back, Poised is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. All right, I got to tell you, I'm with my man, Matt Williamson. I'm going with the Chiefs tonight, and I think they're going to do more than whatever anybody is giving them a chance to do. So make sure you go on Prize Picks and check that out. Also, Lamar Jackson, a 0.5 passing yard. They're already giving you one of them right there. That's right, one of your projections. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code Locked On NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code Locked On NFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks. It's good. It's good to be right. breaking this thing down here on Locked On Jaguars as we prepare for you guys to see your new Jacksonville Jaguars of 2025 with a lot of new leadership, a lot of new moving parts, but then some parts that are not new at all. And one of those, and a very, very important, maybe the most important part of that, is quarterback Trevor Lawrence. There is nobody, and I repeat, there have been a lot of players around here that maybe some people didn't like as much as others. I always root for guys the same because I look at NFL players as little kids that were just like me at one point that grew up to live out their dreams. My kids wanted to be pro athletes. They had my DNA, so they weren't good enough to do that. But I'm fine with who they turned out to be. But Trevor Lawrence did have that DNA. He's been the prince that was promised and all of this other stuff ever since he was a kid. I want to see him do well. And I have the extra incentive. Y'all hear what I just said? That's the Duval County school system. But the incentive is the extra incentive for wanting me to see him succeed is because he's just a good guy. And there are a lot of good people. And it doesn't mean that you need to, that you deserve to succeed because you're a nice player. But it is always nice to see good guys win. And I do believe he's had a bit of a rough beginning here, going back to Urban Meyer, who thought all of his coaches were trash. And the offense coordinator at that time, Brian Schottenheimer, looked pretty good last night in calling those plays for the Dallas Cowboys with nobody in his way, telling him he's trash. And I say that because, and no one said that Trevor was trash, but I do think that there was a lot of unheard and unseen tense sort of relationship stuff between Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson. No need to harp on all of that, but you can hear Trevor now when he says how he's getting these pre-snap answers. You can hear him on an interview. I saw him with Brent Martineau here from the flagship TV station. Brent Martineau interviewed him, and Trevor said, and I'm not going to quite quote it, but I will give you a little bit of an interpolation or the gist of what he was saying. He says that this new staff has opened his eyes. That means he has new revelation. That means that they're doing something that wasn't done before. And while that can usually be a lack of accountability or sort of deflective, I believe every single bit of it from Trevor Lawrence because he looks different, he acts different, he moves differently. And sometimes taking a lot off of his plate. There are a lot of quarterbacks that had super talent that won and are in Canton right now. And I know this is a big jump from the conversation that we're having, but they're super talented. A whole bunch was expected. They got picked number 1 overall, and then they ended up playing for a coach that actually did the things that they're supposed to do, like insulating with an offensive line, get Hall of Fame talent around him, have a great defense, put him in situations where he doesn't have to do a whole lot, but when you call on his name, that talent then steps up and comes out. I'll mention Troy Aikman. I'll mention Peyton Manning. And whatever y'all want to say, I'll mention Tom Brady. I'll even bring up Patrick Mahomes. Have you seen Patrick Mahomes when he gets into the Super Bowl when the offensive line stinks? Yeah, they get blown out. You see how this works? You have to surround people with talent. Have you seen Joe Burrow play MVP level football for 3 of his 5 years in the league? And I didn't mention the other 2 because he was banged up because he was running for his life, like an episode of National Geographic. Yeah. With all that talent around him, it doesn't matter if you don't do the things that you're supposed to do from a organizational standpoint and from a structural standpoint. And this is the thing that I've been arguing with and telling people that have tried to look at Trevor Lawrence's highlights in a vacuum. That doesn't mean that he's been perfect. That doesn't mean that there weren't things that he should have been doing better. It doesn't. If you heard this podcast enough, you tell me that little reverse out when he's trying to get away from traffic where he spins over his right shoulder and spins left and he starts running in a way that doesn't allow him to throw the ball down the field. I have seen Trevor Lawrence do that when the spin wasn't necessary. And it's gotten him in a lot of trouble. And it reduces the field to about a quarter of what you usually want. Just throw it away. We don't need you doing all that. Just throw it away. Don't try to be a hero. But when you feel the inclination to be a hero, it's either you're trying to live up to press clippings or you realize, and you won't say it, especially if you're a guy like Trevor, we stink, and I got to do this. And we're going to win because my reputation is riding on this, and this franchise is riding on my back because they keep pushing me in front of a microphone in my first year, making me talk to people that I didn't want to talk to and all of this stuff. So right from the very beginning, he didn't see this thing the way it was supposed to be seen. He wasn't doing this thing the way a championship quarterback is supposed to be doing. They have to have a championship organization. If you don't have a championship organization, I don't care how good the players are. I don't care what the talent is. If you don't, and that's what people talk about culture. The culture is the foundation, your why, the structure in the building, the communication. All of those things are super, super important. That, in my opinion, whether it's the coaches and football operation or a combination of it all, has been the thing that is most detrimental, in my opinion, to Trevor Lawrence's development. It's not his talent. There's mechanical issues that all quarterbacks have that can be fixed. And maybe his personality was different and didn't jive right with the people who were in charge before. And they had seen it look like something else somewhere else. But with Trevor, it just didn't seem to look right. I actually think Doug Peterson was probably a better coach for a non-talented quarterback than he is for a quarterback. Evidence. You ready? I'll give it to you. Here you go. Nick Foles. Y'all know him, the one that came here and basically committed larceny and robbery and took all that money from the Jacksonville Jaguars. He won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. Couldn't fix Carson Wentz after Wentz got hurt. Carson Wentz was got as the top 2 pick. Never seemed like he was on the same page with Trevor Lawrence. It ticked me and everybody else off when Trevor got hit with a dirty hit. Some people say it wasn't dirty. It was dirty to me. Dirty enough that your coach should have walked out to the field to check on you, and he didn't. All of those things. Trevor Lawrence has a chance to shut up everybody and give a little pushback on all of that stuff. The doubters will always be there, regardless of how well he plays, especially this week against an opponent that he's actually supposed to beat. But it'll be a good start to string these things together. His reward for playing well and beating Carolina is not as big as the demerit that he'll get if he doesn't play well and they lose. We know that. So if that result happens, I'm going to give you guys something right now. And this is not me hedging my bets. This is not me telling you to chill or trying to preempt your anger, because your anger works fine for me because you go tune into the podcast. Whether you probably be tuning in if you're more angry than happy. But I'm going to tell you in segment 3 why it should be all gas for the 904 from this point moving forward, with the caveat that things might not go the way you want them to go. That doesn't mean they won't win, but if they don't win how you want them to win, I don't want you to have doubts. It's week 1. I'll tell you more about that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive. And that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go above, beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. Mazda offers more than safety. It's won more 2025 IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. It's the small details that make the big plays, and just like there's more to every player, there's also more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, you need to move and be moved. Also, today's show is brought to you and sponsored by our friends over at DoorDash. Listen, it's almost time for more games this weekend and time to look back and crown this week's MVP. Who delivered? Powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it on down. I got to give it right now to Jalen Hurts from the Philadelphia Eagles. He delivered in a big way. Fourth quarter running that allowed them to milk the clock, getting key first downs, juking people in the open field on one-on-one with no hesitation and no. I'm telling you right now, just like Jalen delivered for his team, DoorDash delivers for Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Make sure that you check this out. DoorDash Saturdays, just like Jalen Hurts, they will deliver. All right, moving and grooving here on Friday, right before the opener here in Jacksonville. I know everyone in Duval is super, super excited that real football is about to be played. The Jacksonville Jaguars host the Carolina Panthers. This is a busy weekend. I got a pep rally to go to and do some meeting and greeting and all of those things. And it's going to be really, really exciting. We're going to also have immediate reaction. We'll have a post-game show for you as soon as I can get myself back to the Wiggins studio here north of the airport here in Jacksonville and be able to let everything come in and so we can give it to you and make you understand what you just saw with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Hopefully you see them win. I think we're about due for that, right? And the Jaguars have a little bit of a tough schedule in these first 6 games. They need to get off to a really, really good start. A win is going to be the most important thing. So let's just clear that up. But then there are things we want to see. What does this look like? How do they use Trevor Lawrence? How do they use Travis Hunter? What does the defensive edge rushers look like against the offensive line that comes in banged up, even though they've used a lot of resources, free agency and draft picks on the offensive line? Carolina's a little bit banged up. If you listen to the crossover episode I did earlier this week with Julian Council of Locked On Panthers, there was concern about 3 of their starters and their health for the game. How did the Jaguars defensive backs, with Jordan Lewis being the leader, the captain of that group, Travis Hunter when he's over there, and Jarian Jones as a second-year player, another guy Trent Baalke picked who won a starting job outside. How do they match up against the young receivers, Xavier Legette and Ted McMillan from the Carolina Panthers? I think you're going to get a heavy dose of Chuba Hubbard, I think that's how you say his name. You're going to get a heavy dose, and they're going to try to establish the run and then try to get some things for Bryce Young to be able to fit the ball into some windows. What do the linebackers look like for Jacksonville? Are they going to be able to trigger downhill and fill those gaps in behind the defensive line? Can they now cover? Can they now cover guys that run across their face like they struggled with last week? Are you going to see them struggle a little bit to adapt to the new system that Anthony Campanile has put in? All of these things will come into question, right? Regardless of what happens. We know if they don't win, especially if they don't win and it's ugly, all hell's going to break loose here in Jacksonville. And because we got to put our earmuffs on, we're going to hear everything under the sun from people that go, that want to doubt Jacksonville just because it's Jacksonville. I don't think that's going to happen. I have the confidence that the Jaguars are going to play a real, real clean, sound game and give these fans something to look forward to. But anything outside of them getting their doors blown off should not make you panic. You could slightly panic if they don't win, only because the schedule is not very, very kind to them coming into the season. You can also panic a little bit if you have them winning 11 or 12 games like I do, because you got to win the ones where you're supposed to win, because the other ones are tough enough as it is. But yeah, a lot of that doubt will creep in, and I understand that. Now, my guess is you don't have to worry about it. I think Jacksonville's going to win. I think they're going to win soundly. I think they have the better special teams. I think they have a kicker that can make it from everywhere. I think they're going to be very, very patient. But I do think they're going to press towards trying to get explosive plays out of Brian Thomas Jr. and Diami Brown, and of course Travis Hunter, get some stuff going in the passing game. I do want to see their rhythm, the rhythm that they try to have on offense. The only thing I believe can really, really derail them are turnovers. Because if those turnovers happen because they're anxious or whatever, there's some things that you can say won't happen again, that they'll fix, but you don't want to see them the first game. And you don't want them to hang their heads if things don't go the way that they want them to go early. And that is because Liam Cohen has adopted this next play. It's time to move on. Let's get to the next play. But regardless of what it looks like or how it looks, it's never as bad as it seems, and it's never as good as it seems. They're going to have to come out here and do this week by week. They're going to have to come out, be myopically focused on what's in front of them, and handle that business and immediately celebrate really, really fast, have a short memory, and then start working on next week and continue to build on things if they're ever going to get to the place where we don't have to have these type of discussions anymore. When you're looking for an identity, man, you constantly have to walk back to that mirror and see what your face looks like. Hopefully, the Jaguars as an organization can get to the point where regardless of the result, you know who you are, the whole world isn't falling apart, and also to not be so flappable if you win all of a sudden now we're the greatest team ever. No, it's a 1 week process. And it's hard to imagine Jaguar fans understanding and knowing about that process because we don't have a lot of practice at it. I just say, you know what? You got to fake it until you make it. And you want to be good, you want to be a regular organization, we have to start expecting that nothing is that big or nothing is that small. And it's all about the next play. And after this game, it'll be about the next week. And after that game, it'll be about the next week. It is until it becomes something that they do regularly, no one will expect them to be regularly doing it. And that's just something that we have to get used to. But it's all gas, man. I think these guys are going to constantly try to make this team better through acquisitions. I think they are never going to rest. They're always going to be aggressive. I'm looking forward to it. I really am looking forward to how this looks, how the whole Travis Hunter thing plays out, his usage. Will you finally see stuff that you necessarily didn't see in training camp and preseason because they were harnessing it a little bit? What it really looks like to have two people like him and Brian Thomas Jr. out there together with their others that will allow the Jacksonville Jaguars to have something that they didn't have before, and that's star power and a quarterback that everyone believes in. All right, man, make sure y'all check out the season previews. You need something to listen to before this game starts. Go on over to Locked On NFL and check out the season previews, especially the one in the AFC South where, believe it or not, Tyler Rowland from the Titans picked the Jacksonville Jaguars to win the division, not the Houston Texans. So when you start getting your haters and your ops thinking that you're going to win, man, you are on to something. All right, man, good luck to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Please travel safely to and from the game. Enjoy all the tailgates. Go hang out Saturday at the pep rally if you want to come and see me. Hit me up on social media. I'll tell you exactly how to do that. But, man, it's finally here. Toe finally meets leather, man. I'm so happy we have finally gotten to this point. And now we can let all the play on the field do the talking for the team. But until next time, until Sunday after the game, I'm Tony Wiggins. Thank you for joining us here. Spending 28 minutes with us. Once again, your time is never taken for granted. We appreciate you joining us. And hopefully we made it worth your while. Until next time, I'm Tony Wiggins.